Hi, it's Therese and welcome to the Altenew July Inspiration Challenge for 2019. And I have a beautiful flower to inspire you and some really bright, fun colours. So I can't wait to see what you create using these colours. Of course, you can use any stamps or mediums, whatever you want. And to find out all the rules for the challenge, just go through the description link below, which will take you direct to the blog post, which will also have the linky tool for you to link up with. I've lost my chain of thought. No, okay, so I'm colouring here. This is what I'm doing. I've stamped out this is the bigger images, 2 circle image floral images in the Everlasting Happiness stamp set. So I used my original size Misty to stamp it out, and this Misty is perfect for this because I wouldn't have had a block big enough to fit this stamp. And this stamp is such a great size. It can be used for either cards or it's actually a good size for a scrapbooking as well. And because there's a second image in the set, you can simply come along and I've seen some cards and some scrapbook pages where they've joined the 2 images together or linked them around each other, and they look amazing. So I wanted to do some watercolouring today, and that's what I did. I did lots of it. There's lots of gaps here in my filming. I had to wait for it to dry between applications. I am using some Bristol smooth cardstock, so the good thing is here is that smooth finish makes it really easy to stamp on. And I used my obsidian ink, which is working so beautifully with these watercolor brush markers. I've used some of the colors from every set, and they will be I've just sort of grabbed out colors that I thought would go well with the colors from the inspiration. I have laid the colour directly down onto the cardstock and then sort of moved it around with a little bit of water from a water brush, then waited for it to dry and coming in now with a second colour and just placing that on top. This, even though Bristol Smooth isn't a watercolour cardstock, it does tolerate water really well. And one of the great things about the watercolour brush markers is that you don't need a lot of water with them. They're such vibrant colours. And because you don't use a lot of water, they dry really quite quickly as well. When I came in later though, I did actually speed up the process, and you can do this. I usually like to leave my watercolours to dry naturally. I think you get better edges. I don't know, does that make sense? Of the colours. But I did come in and use my heat tool at times just to speed things up, because this was taking a while. I love that you can come and mix the colours afterwards and add different layers as well. Now this is when I decided to, because I wasn't really sure where I was going with this. I was going to keep it very clean and simple, and it totally changed direction, didn't it? I decided to add a little bit of a background wash, so I've grabbed a couple of the watercolor paints from the palette, the 36 pan palette that Altenew have, which matches all that, and that's what I love. All these inks and their watercolors, they all match. It's awesome. So now the technique I'm using here is I'm adding the water, clean water, to the cardstock, and then picking up color and dropping that in, and then sort of blending it out. Try not to overblend, and that's where I get a bit weirded out. I overblend with watercolor. I'm trying to learn to stop the blending thing, and this is where I'm not liking it all. There's always a point in watercolor where I don't like it, and I think, oh, let's start again. But I did actually persevere, and I thought it'd be fun to add more color instead of have less, which is what my original plan was. And I always knew I was going to be cutting this panel down. I just didn't know which way I was going to cut it. So I figured if I colour more than I need, I can always just cut it the way that I want, whichever sections work out the best for my card design. So I'm flicking on some of the watercolour paint that was on the palette just directly onto the panel. And then I also came in with some of my ink sprays. So I've got the jet black ink spray, and I am protecting the image a little bit with some cardstock, whatever scraps I've got there, and then just removing it at certain points so I can add some splatters onto the flowers themselves. And this is where I really did come in with the heat tool. That pure white ink spray takes a very long time to dry, and because the panel was so warped after all of that hard work I'd been doing, I did run it through my Gemini Junior with some shims of copy paper, and that always flattens it out beautifully. And this is where I held my breath, seriously. Held my breath, and it worked. And then I did cut my panel down, and it is a bit smaller than the front of a top fold card, and added some foam to the back. The sentiment I stamped with some obsidian ink, and it's from the Sincere Greetings set. I did use a double layer of fun foam behind this because I did want it to pop right up off the card. And I actually really like how this card turned out in the end, and I hope you do too. And I hope you're inspired to try this challenge, so head through the link below and you can find all the details there.